Ati from about Likee TV na ene number channel to hit and man subscribe, like, share. Ma when a pense me be ati so enye bi enti na NDC youth campaign ati for a dom jam etima bowroma a dom there. Enye is imunwam na ye video.
The 2024 elections, but this one is targeting the youth. What is informing this strategy?
Thank you, Eric, for having me, and thank you, TV. We have a major political party in the country launched Manifesto. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it is only in South Africa where, when Julius Malema was the leader of the ANC Youth Wing, that the Youth Manifesto was launched. So, having today, or having me as a youth organizer for Greater Akroma of the NDC Youth Wing, I think it's a historic day, and we need to pat the National Youth Organizer and the deputies on the shoulder for conceiving the idea. And we also need to thank His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the running mates and the national executives for buying into the idea when it was proposed by the national youth leadership that we should launch a youth manifesto. And there's a rationale behind launching of the youth manifesto, because over the years what we have done is that we put everything in a pool and we launch it. But you realize that since when we started the issue of manifesto, where political parties are measured with based on what they will do when they are elected into office, you have a central team running through the manifesto, so it will subsume the other policies in the manifesto. Even currently as we have it, we have the 24-hour economy of the NDC, and everybody is talking about the 24-hour economy because of how it resonates with the people. So realize that after the launch of the NDC manifesto, the discussion will center around 24-hour economy and not the other policies that the NDC have in stock for the people. And also looking at Ghana Statistical Service data, where 38% of the 31 million population are youth. It tells you that they are in the majority and they are faced with most of the challenges that bedevil us as a country. So there is the need for us to have a deliberate discussion about the challenges facing the youth and proper solution to it. Now, coming up with this manifesto, we must put on record, but this is not a George Opariado manifesto where he sat in a room somewhere, conjured some policies and want to share it with Ghanaians. Because the questions that have come up is that if the youth is launching a manifesto, George Opariado will not be the president. So how is he going to implement the youth manifesto?
That was exactly what I was going to ask, but you can speak to
the answer is very simple. This is an NDC manifesto. In 2020, we launched what we call the People's Manifesto. And we had our own way of coming up with a People's Manifesto. That's to go back to the people, listen to their challenges, and let them proffer solution to those challenges. We put it, we weigh it, looked at it from a policy point of view, and modeled it to fit the challenges that they are faced with. And then we proffer the solutions as they have discussed with us. The same thing applies with it. A manifesto committee was constituted, headed by Professor Danso Buafo, and that committee, the manifesto committee, we have subcommittees. We have a subcommittee on youth, which I'm privileged to be part of, and other subcommittee under the youth. We went through the process of listening to the youth of this country, their challenges, the solutions as they want it done. We looked at it, put it together, presented it to the manifesto committee itself. We had to defend it because questions were posed. It went through a thorough process for it to be fine-tuned, and now we have it as a mother document as the manifesto. So that manifesto, out of that manifesto, we picked the youth aspect of the manifesto out of the main manifesto.
Which is part of what you are going to launch today. We'll go into some of those details. But it comes at a time when we know that Afrobarometer reports suggest that a lot of young people are losing hope in the kind of governance we are witnessing over the period, particularly over the last 7 years. And we're also looking at the two major political parties which will try to sell themselves to the youth. The NDC may come across as one of the political parties which is becoming more attractive to the youth. Would you say it is because of some of the
rate was a little over 8%. Today the unemployment rate is almost 15%. And so a lot of young people don't have jobs to do. And that's why I was saying that we have to accelerate our economy. And so rather than walking, we must start running. And so if we're working 8 hours, we must start working 16 hours and 24 hours. That's why we're introducing the 24-hour economy, so that we can create more jobs. So that we can create more jobs for our young people. And to create more jobs for our young people, we have to help businesses to be able to add on more employment and work in the night. And so we're going to help a new crop of business people called agribusinessmen. In every region, there's going to be a special agro-processing zone. Government will acquire the land, will do the roads, will bring water, electricity. And anybody who wants to set up a factory to buy products from farmers and process it will be giving the land to establish the factory so that our young people can get work to do. And all these agro-processing businesses will work 24 hours a day so that they can employ as many of our youth as possible. We're going to continue the abandoned projects. Over the years, when governments leave, subsequent governments do not continue the projects that previous governments were doing because they think that if you continue it, the credit will go to the previous government and not to you. We don't have that disposition. Taxpayers' money, Ghanaian taxpayers' money has gone into those projects that have not been finished, but Ghanaians are not getting the benefits because the projects have not been done. And so when we come, the projects we're doing, the E-blocks that were abandoned by this government, we'll continue them. The hospitals we're doing that have been abandoned, we'll continue them. The projects from Kufuor's time, from Rawlings' time, any projects that have not been finished, we'll continue them. We're doing an inventory of them as I speak so that we know which projects are there, so that every year's budget will make provision for continuing these ongoing and abandoned projects. Even the uncompleted projects that this government will leave, we will continue. The Agenda 111 hospitals, they've started so many of them all over the place. They won't finish most of them. The majority, they won't finish. The responsibility is going to fall on us to continue and finish those projects. And so we'll continue them. We're not going to abandon them. Apart from destroying our economy, apart from plunging Ghana into crisis, one of the things this government wants to do is to rewrite our history. And we shall not allow them to rewrite our history. Because the president said he does not accept that one person can be the founder of a nation. Yes, founding a nation, it takes many people, but there's always that critical one person whose sacrifice and efforts is what finally leads to the attainment of the objective that everybody is working for. And so if you ask South Africans, who is the founder of modern day South Africa, they'll tell you Mandela. But it was not Mandela alone. There was Oliver Tambo, there was Govan Mbeki, and so many of them who fought the armed struggle to achieve independence for South Africa from apartheid. But it was Mandela's sacrifice, being in prison for 20-something years and being the symbol of the struggle, that makes them say Mandela is the founder of modern day South Africa. It is the same thing with Ghana. If you ask Ghanaians who is the founder of Ghana, who gained independence for Ghana, majority of Ghanaians will tell you Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Because it was him who gave that critical spark to the independence struggle that eventually got us independence. The UGCC at the time said independence gradually in the shortest possible time. Nkrumah said independence now. And he fought for it. And that is why Ghanaians recognize him as the founder. Nobody can come and rewrite our history. Indeed, for those of you who don't know it, when the Queen finally agreed to give Ghana independence, the UGCC that Nana Akufo-Addo is fighting to be recognized as founders of Ghana wrote a petition. They sent people to England to tell the Queen, don't grant independence, we are not ready yet. And so how can people like that be either, even if we are saying many people fought for independence, you cannot say UGCC was part of it because there is not inability. And we'll continue to work to make sure that we create opportunities for our persons living with disability. Elections have consequences. The way you vote has a consequence on your life. In 2016, we took a certain decision. We voted because a certain group of people said they were the most competent to rule this country. Things were not perfect under my government. We had not made Ghana heaven, but at least we were making some progress. Today, we are told that our lives are better. How can our lives be better than it was in 2016? And everything you talk about has deteriorated. They said, we are bringing an economic wizard. He worked in Bank of Ghana before. It was him who helped Kufuor to make the cedi equivalent to $1. We are bringing him to stabilize the cedi. What happened to the cedi? It broke jail and ran away. He said he had arrested the cedi and locked it. What happened to it? The cedi ran from 4 cedis to 16 cedis to $1. And so, elections have consequences. Today, they say we should applaud them for what they have done in 8 years. In 8 years, we are hungrier than we are. You remember, they say, yeti what, yeti dienso, yeti sikaso, and so, come the. You remember that one? Ghana nye hiyama yeti sikaso, and so come the. You remember it? Today, aren't people more hungry than they were before? We have had agricultural policies in the past that have not worked. We're just coming from the planking of food for food and jobs. It hasn't worked because, food prices are so high. If it had worked, we would have abundant food and prices will not be as high. And that is because we're just doing a shot in the dark approach. We just come and distribute subsidized fertilizers, and we think that that's enough to increase food production. This time, there must be a direct engagement with the farmer. We must know who the farmer is, and our policy must target that farmer.
John Mahama is come with accolades, attributes. But the attribute with which I am receiving him is the attribute that says, John Dramani, the nation builder. And upon this accolade, upon this attribute, I want to make some demands. And because you lack the time, I just want to mention about 2. Nation builder, you remember that in your tenure, you gave Nangodi, the capital of Nabdam, a secondary school. But it fizzled out when you departed. The Nabdam people are reminding you that when you come back, let us have that school. My people are all saying that you yourself, you saw the roads, even as you came to Pelungu. The roads are bad. And we've been crying for a very long time for someone to attend to us. So we are presenting to you the road from Gania Songe through Zalerugu, through Damolgo, Tindongo, and to Pelungu, and to Sakote and Nangodi. We want to hear you respond positively and serious on this. And we also want to tell you that Nabdam is sitting on the Nangodi gold belt. Very rich gold belt. I have been told by experts that the quality of gold is the highest, 22 karat. And this is the only place that we have an industrial mining during the Northern Territories, when we were Northern Territories. Since then, no policy has favored us. And for that matter, The mining has become a problem unto us. And the only thing that my people would do is wanting to take it by galamsey. And when they attempt it, they are penalized. They are maltreated.
Oh, you're the master. Some of your bread, the Lee Update TV.